kind of nice that I just have to push a button. Okay, so that's happening. And I'm going to start the recording. Oops. Okay, well, welcome everyone to the December Doug. I'm your hostess, Amber Matz. And today we have two speakers slash like people who are going to chat about things that they're working on. So it's nothing too formal. We've got Elijah Lynn and Greg Boggs here to share with us about some projects that they either have worked on recently, fairly recently, or are working on right now. So I don't know who wants to start. Does anyone, Elijah, do you have a preference? Or Greg?
I don't have a preference. I am fine going first or last.
Okay.
I think it would be great if you go first.
Okay.
All right.
That settles that.
All right, cool. Let me close all sorts of unrelated stuff here. Let's see here. All right. Okay, so I might show a little bit of screen stuff, but I usually get kind of like overwhelmed with having to give a talk. So I told Amber, I was like, how about I just show up and kind of like talk about it and not have to like be on the hook for like a big presentation and all that stuff. So let me just talk about the project I've been working on for the past 2 years. You can ask questions throughout. And I was thinking this will take about 10 or 20 minutes. So feel free to just have a conversation around it, though, especially if something doesn't make sense. So around October of 2018, I started working on the VA.gov project. And the VA.gov project is for the Department of Veterans Affairs. And the goal of it is so www.va.gov, you can go there right now, it's a static site that had all of its content in a GitHub repo, which is an open source GitHub repository actually. And then the actual build scripts that built out like the static site was based on Metalsmith, and it still is. But it would fetch the content in Markdown files, which actually had HTML inside Markdown files. And I think I heard the story that some of the editors were using Dreamweaver to do that. So it was a good proof of concept. That it used to be called vets.gov, and then it was successful enough in the user interface and the information architecture, and they liked it enough that they migrated it and they launched it to va.gov. But then as the editorial workflow kind of got more people adopted, it kind of got more of a platform and more of a voice. They said, well, they needed a CMS behind it and it needed to be an open source CMS. So the company I joined to work on this is Agile 6, and then we partnered with Civic Actions, and we've been kind of working on this for the past 2 years. I mostly do DevOps, but I want to highlight that this is a fully open source website, a government website, and you can download and set up the entire front end and the entire backend CMS, including sanitized database dump and the file dump. So you can actually get the whole thing up and running, not just like open source code, but you can actually install it and get it running, and you can build the whole thing. It's complicated in parts. It's a decoupled static site with a Drupal backend, which has its own challenges that we've had. But I'll just give a little demonstration real quick. Oh, screen sharing is disabled. Oh, I'm the host now. So if you just go to, let me close my calendar here. If you search the web for vets-website, up will come the front end It'd just be the first result here. And it was called Vet's website because it was called vets.gov, and they weren't sure if it was going to become va.gov. So that's, this is the website right here. It's the front end for va.gov. I don't actually know if this is, actually I should probably, we don't work on this side of things. We work on the back end. I should put a link to the docs in here. So, you got all the instructions. Oops, sorry. There, and I'll just do that. And if you search for va.gov-cms, which is what it is, va.gov-cms, you can see the back end here, which is the site that our team works on. This website here, prod.cms.va.gov, is all behind a firewall. You can't actually see that stuff there. But this is the va.gov CMS, and you can actually click through to the front end from this one. The entire site is actually hosted in an AWS S3 bucket. And it's built by Jenkins. So you actually build, I'll just stop that for a second. So you build with Jenkins, and it fetches out the content, and it builds it, and it shoots it to an S3 bucket. The way it does that right now is with a monster GraphQL query, because it's basically trying to get all the content. And I think there's like 20,000 entities right now, and it takes, like nested paragraphs and file entities and all that stuff. And it takes a while. It takes like 5 to 8 minutes, depending, because GraphQL, the module, it has its own cache, and it's just one giant request. So we're actually switching that over to a much faster but more complicated method now, using Sam Mortenson's Tome sync. So it can, Sam Mortenson's Tome module, or Tome, I think some people pronounce it, will export all the content as single JSON files, and including all, like, it'll invalidate the caches and say node updates and all that stuff. You just have to do like an initial export. So that's gonna, that complicates things, because we basically export it on every deploy, and then we put it on a super fast volume, and when a request comes in to get the content, instead of GraphQL now, it actually in real time tars the 20,000 files. The 20,000 file tarring operation happens in under a half second. So then it shoots it back out, it goes to Jenkins, and then it builds out. So that whole process is being reworked and refactored right now. And we do continue. One of the cool things I like about working on this project is that this is a project of the United States Digital Service. So it's like a bubble. It's the team that rescued healthcare.gov, and there's a whole digital service, U.S. Digital Service Department at the VA, and it's really like amazing to see such transparency and lots of open communication, open issues. Like, you can open an issue for a public government website. It's pretty fascinating that it's possible. So what was I saying about that though? Anyways, so yeah, we ship out the code, the JSON files, and then we spit it back out to S3. So that whole thing is still happening. That's probably only still going to get us down to like 3-minute deploy time. So like, if you hit the save button, your content right now, unless you like manually kick off a Jenkins job, it takes a day to go out, because we do a continuous deployment every day. Oh, that's right. That's what I was saying. This digital service bubble we're in, like, mandated that we use continuous deployment. Like, and the way it works is your release is going out that day, no matter what. And it's like the opposite. So it's like, it notifies you in Slack saying the deploy is coming up in 60 minutes, and you can cancel it if you want, but that's how it works. And so like, every time you merge a PR in, it gets automatically deployed to dev and staging, and then at a certain time, the afternoon. We have to do deployments during the daytime. They won't let us do deployments at nighttime. So that's awesome, right? Because people are around then to fix things if they're broken. So that makes a lot of sense. Especially in government, people check out at 5 o'clock. They're gone. So we do continuous deployments, and your content would go out the next day if you missed that window. So it was still a very slow process of getting content up. And now we're working towards trying to figure out how to shuffle things around with like incremental deploys using the static JSON and the output from all that stuff, so that we can get near real-time deploys. Because in Drupal, in a nice CDN and integration with like Fastly or something like that, or Akamai, you can have near like within 5-second global content purging and like shooting content out, updated real time. And you switch to this system, which gives you DDoS protection, gives you security protection with S3. You get all these features, not having to drop everything for Drupal security updates. There's no real-time traffic coming into this except for editors and administrators and stuff like that. So yeah, and then so on the infrastructure side, we use Terraform to do all the infrastructure in AWS, and we get to use all the fancy tools that are available in the AWS Go Cloud region. It's like GitHub Enterprise. It's like months behind what everybody else gets. Yeah, I'm really, I see this as like the future. Like a lot of other government organizations are looking at this and this project and this kind of what we're doing, and they're going to be adopting things like this as well. Yeah, so it's really exciting to see that spread, the open source movement inside of our own government, like spreading, and especially like public issues. And we use ZenHub integrated with GitHub, so you can use like actual boards and things like that, but it all bubbles down to a GitHub issue. So we used to use DevShop for our CI system, and we're rolling out Tugboat any day now. Giving a training on it tomorrow morning to the engineering team. We have an on-premise version of Tugboat. That's not open source. I wish it was, but it's a pretty, excuse my language, it's pretty badass system. It really makes things a lot faster. It is quite interesting to see what they've done with that. The lead engineer is Ben Shavit, I think, or something like that. And the whole UI is driven with WebSockets and like real-time updates. The containers and the way they like bake base images and stuff like that to launch new preview instances and pull request instances is like it's a game changer for sure. So I'm glad we paid the money for that. That was really hard. Getting things done in government is really hard, but it's just the secret. So I've been doing this kind of work for 8 years, so since 2012. Yeah, like 8 years in multiple enterprises and in a government agency now. And you just have to gently pressure or push constantly to get things done. Because if you wait, everybody else is going to wait too. So, we are enabled in this organization, in this kind of bubble that we're in, to do this stuff, but you still got to do the pushing. So it's I didn't think we would get a Tugboat on premise, purchase approval or any of that stuff. But I asked and I pushed, and here we are. We're going to launch it this week because I'm going on vacation on Tuesday, and I don't want to do it then. Anyways, that was a lot. So I can talk more about stuff, but we can pause for questions, or we can finish here. Anybody have any questions?
I have one. Thank you first, but also, how extensively is Drupal used across government agencies?
I don't know the answer to that question. This is the first government project I've worked on. I do know there's a company called Mobomo. Cameron Egan's, C.W. Egan's, the composer patches maintainer. He used to work for those folks, and NASA was one of their clients, and they had a bunch of Drupal sites. I'm pretty sure it's pretty large, and there's also a pretty big Drupal GovCon, presence, and there's Gov summits and stuff like that. So I don't know. Like at VA, I think Drupal, from my experience, is like we have one CMS, and all the products, all the different parts of VA are going to be coming onto this. We're probably going to have about 1,000 editors when it's all said and done. Maybe more, something like that. But I don't know. Yeah.
There's a pretty good presence on Drupal. Drupal Gov. Yeah, the con is really good for learning more, and but Iris is on Drupal, and there's a bunch of federal level infrastructure sites that moved over to Drupal as part of an effort to do more with less resource, more efficiently spend money and resources. That started under in the Obama era, because there were a bunch of good Drupalists who got into government positions and actually ended up saving the American people a ton of money in just switching over from outdated CMSs over to Drupal and emphasizing open source. And then there's some good regional initiatives I know about on the East Coast. I just so happen to know more about the East Coast ones than the West Coast ones for some reason. In some of our Portland area, I'm pointing at Greg. Greg knows more. Let Greg talk about this, but there's some local governments that are Drupal users too.
Thank you for all this information. That's really cool. Do you all see Drupal just growing in government, or is it shrinking, or just staying the same?
I see it as growing. It's very enterprisey. Drupal 8 and Drupal 9 are very much made for doing things like that. Especially when you're trying to hire talent, hiring people for custom stacks is kind of tough, especially in government. In government, you have a lot of contract switching. So you'll get a contract for a year, and then another company will have a chance to win it from you. So it's not like you always get to be on that project. It's always this contract switching stuff. So if you have a custom stack, that's really risky. So if you have a Drupal, a custom Drupal stack, it's a lot less risky. And I say custom Drupal because we all have a lot of glue code, all this stuff is built with. But hiring talent for common systems is a lot easier and a lot safer. That's my opinion.
I know one of the guys from North Studio up in Vancouver, BC, worked on whitehouse.gov during the Obama administration. That was all Drupal. It should be interesting to see where the direction. I don't know what it is right now, but
it's WordPress.
It's on
is
WordPress.
It WordPress? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how it goes in the next administration, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I found that to be kind of interesting. We'll see where it goes this time.
Well,
Yeah.
I do want to say again about Drupal GovCon is one of the biggest and most well-run Drupal events. It's huge. It's 1,200 people at least. So I would check out the Drupal for Gov is the nonprofit that runs that event. They also, if you get on their mailing list, they do monthly webinars. And then I think Drupal GovCon would have recordings, so that's a good place to learn about different sites that are running Drupal in the government realm. So.
Yeah, so we just spoke. Actually, we have a couple recordings about VA.gov and the sorts. We had 3 of them that we just did at Drupal GovCon. Kevin Walsh at Civic Actions. I'm just highlighting the people that are possibly known in the community, so I might not say all the names. And then Robbie Holmes also. I did a talk with him as well. So Robbie Holmes is the one who helped procure Drupal for this project, and he was actually a U.S. Digital Service employee. So some of you might know him. He's Robbie the Geek. He's got a Drupal tattoo. You know, he's probably been in a lot of Drupal pictures and stuff like that. So he's a good dude. And you can only have 4-year tours at the United States Digital Service. Well, you can do like 2 years, and you can get another 2 years, I think. But you can't stay there forever. So there's a specific intention there to not like get a whole bunch of lifers in there just squatting, and these are usually pretty talented people, and they join the digital service, and they want to make change quickly. So you have like this target to do that quickly instead of in 10 years or something like that. But there's some more talks there, and that was a really well run digital conference. I was like, oh, I like digital conferences after I attended that one. It was pretty neat how we have the bandwidth to do that now, because I think about 10 or 15 years ago that would not have been a thing.
Cool. Any other questions?
Can I ask you some how questions about the VA?
Yeah.
How does content preview work? Do you write the blog post and then wait until tomorrow to double check that it looks okay?
Yeah. So there is a content preview server. So this is part of the weird thing about VA and contracts is like, so another team actually was responsible for taking care of the preview. The CMS was kind of like, you're just a content API to store content, but the preview kind of got just in the middle. And the big problem with government contracts is the middle of the contracts, where that one contract starts and the other one ends. So it did get built and it is there, but the way that works is there's like a real-time server that runs a fraction of the build script. And then what it does is it'll make a GraphQL request to Drupal. It'll grab the JSON that's returned from the GraphQL request, and then it'll render that. I don't know all the details about that, but so there's like a prod and a staging and a dev preview server, but that's it. There's no like preview server for the like CI environments and local and stuff like that. So we did come up with some stuff around kind of doing like a full site preview, because that was like a single page preview. So even the preview that we have like officially is single page preview. It doesn't actually, if you publish a bunch of stuff, you're only going to get your page previewed at that one URL. You're not going to get all of it. But we are working towards a full site preview, especially with the Tome Sync stuff. And we're kind of toying with some ideas, but we don't own that process right now. Like, it's not our responsibility, so we can't really do that. It's kind of a weird thing in government where we could, but it's not what we're getting paid for. You know what I mean? It's not like, and it takes a decent amount of work, and it's not our servers and stuff like that. So, but we are working pretty closely, and we do have a Slack that we work with all the teams on and all that stuff, and it's starting to get closer and tighter. But the goal that I think we're going to be moving towards is a faster build process, so we can do a full site preview that might only take 30 seconds, but still 30 seconds is a long time to wait for preview. So we're thinking about doing like this initial export build and then basing like incremental stuff on top of that with like rsync folders and stuff like that to get that like full site rich preview into like these almost like underlying workspaces. I don't know, it's complicated, but it is what it is. Yeah, it is definitely. I remember we had a call once, and I don't think we were supposed to at all, but we actually had a call with Jeff Eaton because he's all up about content preview and stuff like that. It was just like a Drupal colleagues like unofficial call type thing, you know, and because he's written a bunch of stuff about content preview and decoupled and all that stuff. But preview is not great right now. It's only single page. But we are working towards a full site preview. And we do have that in our CI environments, but you have to do a full build every time. And our build times from the GraphQL request is taking like, gosh, it's like 5 to 10 minutes now. So, you know, if you want to preview some content for you have to do a full site preview build. Yeah, Tugboat's going to help a lot with that though, as far as that goes.
Yeah, Tugboat is great for that. I love that feature. So it's great also for allowing different levels of folks to be able to do a QA check. You know, not just the developers, but
yeah,
being able to check for copy and things like that.
Yeah. Any more how questions, Greg?
The other one I'm wondering is how you do translated content, or do you just have content in one language?
We don't have translated content yet. That wasn't a need in the beginning of this project, but I think there is like next year, like Q3, Q4 work towards that. And I think we will be doing translated content. I think to start off with, probably be Spanish. Yeah. Don't do that right now.
Got it. My last one is, do you do any automated testing or any human-driven testing that relies on automation?
We do. We have a suite of the hat tests and also a few PHP unit tests, which are not actually unit tests. But anyway, they're all. So what's kind of neat is that John Pugh, he had worked with us too for a little while, and he wrote this tool called Yaml Tasks, and it's been renamed to Yaml Tasks now. But you basically specify your tests and the commands in a YAML file, and then you just run one YAML test command, the Composer YAML tests. So it's a Composer plugin, and then it'll run through all your tests. And if you pass it a GitHub token, it'll actually post all the results to the PRs as a commit status. So, and then each test line item in the YAML, I can show you actually real quick here. Oh yeah, it's all right here actually. So here's an example, and I'll blow this up a little bit here. So, and these deploy ones are only in here because of the way DevShop worked. We'll be removing these soon. But so here's the actual test: Studio Code Sniffer, PHP Lint, PHP Unit, some accessibility testing on the a few certain pages, and then so each one of these shows up. And since this is a public repo, CMS pulls. And here's an example of some. So you get green check mark here. and show all the checks. So we just did some GitHub Actions stuff. So that's that GitHub Actions, and this stuff is all from the Yaml tests, and they've all passed, but they all just kind of post back, and it'll actually mark them as pending in the beginning, and you just run like that. And the nice thing about that is it puts the control of the tests in the developer's hands, and so they can run one command like compose YAML tests, and it runs the whole test suite. And that's the same test suite that gets run in CI, gets run in dev and staging, and we don't run it on prod because it can screw up data. But once it gets past all those gates, then it can be deployed to prod. So it's nice because you just have one file. And then, I've been on other projects where an engineer will be like, oh, I want to add this new test. And then they have to talk to us on the DevOps team, and then we have to go add that test to an Ansible script or something like that. And now we just have the DevOps side, we just run one command, YAML tests, and whatever they put in it can be run, and it can be, just really easily maintained by the application engineers. So they don't have to futz with this big cycle of, it's all about reducing that cycle time, and so I really like that tool a lot. So I would like to actually, and yeah, I'll show you a failure here. We have to do some work. I think John's improved it already, but we don't have the latest version. But if you click on a failed one here, you'll see here. Yeah, here. So it'll actually output. Oh, so yeah, there we go. Thank you. All right, so I clicked on a failed PR here, so we can see it's got a failed Behat test here, and it'll actually post a comment here, also on failures with the actual failures. So that goes there. However, there's a length. This test is so long that it gets cut off because of the max comment length on GitHub. So I think the new version gets around this, but we haven't updated to that yet. And I think, so I'm seeing another tool where it'll post multiple comments, like 4 comments to show you the entire output. But this is nice because some people don't have access to, see the logs. They might be it's on a VPN, so they don't have access, so they can actually expose the failure right here without having to click into the CI runner, which is pretty nice. So this needs to be improved a little bit on our side, but it is it's pretty good. And so it's called YAML Tasks now because you could run anything, not just tests. And you can there's a feature in it called ignore failure. So this was failing for a while, and we wanted to know about it, but we didn't want to fail the build. So there's some options in there. And yeah, you just throw whatever commands you want in there, and it works. One of our next on-premise things is going to be an on-premise Blackfire server, because it's one of the better debugging tools for things and preventing performance regressions. So, and the SaaS versions are hard to get approved in government. So they have to be like FedRamped and all this other stuff. But the on-premise is a lot easier to do if there's some kind of security scans against the code and stuff like that. So that's going to be my next push. And then it will be able to do on PRs, it'll actually be able to hit the right servers and actually do regression tests and stuff like that. So I've been on too many sites where the site gets slower and slower and slower. And it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. Fixing slowness is really costly over time, and then it just becomes a bad user experience. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Elijah.
Well, my project is significantly less complex.
I'm gonna thank you. Applause, applause. Thank you, Elijah. I really appreciate your time and
Yeah, thanks for having me.
.gov. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Oh, can you make me the host or make Greg the host? Actually,
Sure.
please. Thank you.
Greg's now the host.
Cool. All right, Greg, it's all you.
Okay. Interesting. Zoom doesn't show me which desktop is which. Okay.
It does on the latest version. It's weird. It usually numbers it.
Give me a second. I've got to give Zoom permission to see my screen. And I need to rejoin. I'll be right back.
We'll just have a little break.
I should probably make you the host first.
Oh yeah, good idea.
How do I do that?
Oh, go open the participants and hover over it and drop down the more
Got it.
button.
Okay, I will restart and be right back.
So, how's it going? DrupalCon Europe is happening right now. Did you all know?
Whoa. I did not know
Except for
that.
it's happening in the middle of the night for our time. So I heard
Yeah, I missed the Dries note.
Yeah, I heard that the if you're registered that the recordings are in the platform. So I think tomorrow I'm gonna spend some time. Oh, whoops. Go upgrade it. I'm gonna try and spend some time watching this. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna mute now.
You're not gonna let us live all of our air drumming fantasies.
And can you set me as the host again?
So demanding, Greg.
I know.
I remembered another Drupal project. Metro is Drupal.
Okay. Y'all should be able to see my browser now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome. So I work for the Multnomah County Library here in Portland. And before I started, the library built out a very large Drupal website for event management. And if you don't know, the library during normal times has thousands of events a year that they manage through their custom Drupal site for many years. Recently, over the summer, they've switched to a provider for event management called Communico. And Communico makes a series of products that target libraries. And one of their products is Attend, which just gives you a place to post events, have patrons register for the events, and get notifications about events. Pretty kind of straightforward event stuff. But Attend doesn't have many of the features that our library needs, the big one being translated content. They also don't support the ability to group content by language since they don't support translation. And so after we went through a review process with Communico, we were actually considering not using Attend, but after talking over the problem with their development team, I realized they have a nice API. And so what we're looking at is the API for Attend, where you can see one of the events in the library system kind of in JSON. And so I thought, well, we'll just build our own landing pages on top of attend, and then we'll translate those, and then we'll display the translated pages and everything else. And then we'll just link to attend when it comes time to register. So I've got a Drupal 9 website here that's just reading in all of the events from attend. Right now we're in testing, so there's only 40 or so. And if I click on one of these events, it should be just like what we see in the attend API, all the same fields and everything, with the big addition that we can now use Drupal to translate the events that the Communico API doesn't support. So far I've only enabled Spanish, but we're going to do 7 languages for the library. So the basic idea is the events go in attend, the translations go in Drupal, and then very similar to the way the VA Gov website works, we're actually creating static pages for all the events. So I've turned on the JSON API for Drupal so that we can have our nice API that's translated in all the languages that we need, with all the fields and filters that the library wants on our new events search page. And then we're using a static site generator called Gatsby to produce HTML out of those events. As you can see, we're still super in progress. But the one piece that I really want to show y'all is how it works, because I did absolutely no programming to do it. So I'm using a module called feeds, which I think most of us who used it in Drupal 7 will remember it. And it's a user interface for importing content into a Drupal site. You can create a feed. In this case, I'm downloading from a URL and using the little JSON thing here. And then you can map that feed, whoops, to your fields in Drupal. So the basic idea is you configure the feed to read your API using the context. And if we go and look at this API, the context actually exactly matches up to what we see in the Communico example. And then I just map those out to Drupal fields so that we get title, description, so on and so forth. There's just really kind of 2 different things about feeds for Drupal 9 that's a little bit different than Drupal 8. In Drupal, or in Drupal 7 and 9, it's different. And in 9, feeds actually has a feed content item and a feed content type, I guess you would say. So it's got those 2 things, which makes it a little bit difficult to learn how to use in the first place. But the key bit is that you make a feed content type that sets up your feed and where it connects to. And then you make a piece of feed content, which is actually the control board to do your imports, import in the background, delete feed items, run your import, that sort of thing. And then it should show me what the items are. If we click the items tab, it shows 44 imported. And the amazing thing is there's absolutely no code. It's all just the feeds module and configuration for the feeds module. And if I flip over to my code for the site, just click this and open up the code, you can see that I don't actually have any code yet, simply because I haven't needed any custom code to make it work. But the one reason I wanted to show you the code is because in Drupal 7, we used to use a thing called hooks so that we could hook into the page and run custom logic. And in Drupal 9, the feeds module has no hooks. Instead of hooks, they have actions or events. And so we have to use the new method for implementing events in Drupal 9. I don't think this repository is open source yet, but I'm pretty sure once I get a little bit further along that the library is going to let me open source at least most of the stuff. Hopefully they let me open source the whole website all at once. That would be super cool. I actually really love that part of your presentation, Alicia. That's brave of them for certain. But the basic idea is once I do get this open sourced, you could totally steal our feeds configuration and read any API you wanted and reproduce it in Drupal. And really the one advantage besides translation is in reproducing it in Drupal is that Gatsby was started by a Drupal person, a person who's a member of the Drupal community and did a lot of Drupal. So they actually have Drupal specific plugins for Gatsby.
Yep.
That's super popular, and it's called the Gatsby Source Drupal. And this plugin understands what Drupal is going to output, and it's familiar with Drupalisms and nodes and node IDs and that sort of thing. So
can you scroll up to that fast builds thing real quick?
Fast builds?
Yeah, what is that? So maybe search the page for fast builds. There, you guys. So speed up your only downloading. Oh, look at incremental builds with Drupal.
Yeah, Gatsby will do incremental Drupal builds.
I didn't know it had that option. That maybe that was a new feature.
It is new hotness for Gatsby.
Huh. Yeah, we might have a chance to propose Gatsby for this site that I work on. So, oh, that's cool. Sorry to distract Greg.
No, that's great. I'm actually nearing the end of everything I wanted to show. The one thing that I do want to mention is that with 40 events, our build time is 8 seconds. I think that's not the total time though. Might actually be the total time. Yeah, it's about 8 seconds. And so once we get up to the full list of library events and the library opens again, I imagine this is going to be quite slow. But we have one benefit that most people don't get in that we're using Communico, so you can view all the events on Communico. And actually, I lost my tab with the dev site in it. Just open that back up again. So most likely our editors will probably preview the content on Communico, even though the design is different. So I just clicked a link here, and this is actually the Communico version of the page.
Who's handling your translation?
But if we, so translation is done at the library through a provider who does the translations. But then the library has language staff that review and improve the translations. So there's a whole translation workflow.
Are you using the translations, Drupal's default translation, I18N or internationalization, so to speak?
Yeah, so there's about 10 websites at the library, maybe 6 websites at the library. And they range from Drupal 7 up through Drupal 9. So how it works is different on every website. But on the new website in Drupal 9, all the translation is just core Drupal translation system. So if I go to configuration and click on translation, there was just a few checkboxes, and I checked all the checkboxes, and I put in the language, and I hit save, and that was it.
Sorry, you piqued my interest when you said translations. I used to handle that for Flip Networks up in Everett, and we did it through Lingotech and translations.com for a couple different methods. So yeah, cool.
Let me just find that screen. Yeah, the translation system in Drupal 9 is so much better than everything we had in 7.
Oh, yes.
Because it's literally all in this one screen. You check a few checkboxes, you tell it which fields you want translated, and then you go over to the languages tab in the other screen and you add your languages and you're all done. I think we'll probably move to using an automated translation provider. Right now, it's organized by people logging into Drupal and putting the translations in, which gives it a whole workflow process. And we'll probably move to using a Drupal module with a provider like Lingotech. But yeah, the county is still a government organization, so we'll have to go through contracting and the whole bit.
Certainly.
But yeah, the key feature for the library is that the library staff who can speak the languages that we produce content in get a chance to review and modify the translations on the final website. So that's why, we're not going to use something like Google Translate, etc.
Yeah, pro tip with translations, don't ever use Google Translate. That's just don't do it.
Yeah, in the case of the event registration form, we were thinking we might use Google Translate just for the form because there's just a field with like 8 or 12 labels. But Google Translate broke the links in the navigation for the events calendar. So we're gonna hand code the translations on that form in JavaScript. And I'll probably be the person who maintains the translations on that because they don't support the translation, but they do let me put JavaScript on the page. So I'm just going to rewrite all of the content. But that's not a fun experience. It's much nicer to have Drupal where the editors can just log in and translate the content.
Well, that's cool. It's exciting to see Drupal 9 stuff after having dealt with Drupal 7 for so long. Oh yeah, that's so nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the feeds module is really stable and solid and full featured, and I'm super happy with how easy it was to use. I'm only going to end up writing a very small amount of custom code because of the way that I'm having trouble getting Gatsby to pull remote images from Communico. So I'm going to migrate those images over to the Drupal side and just host all of the images on Drupal. But to get feeds to create media images from the weird format in the Gatsby API is going to require some code because they don't actually put their images in the API. They just tell me what the URL to the image is.
Mm.
Oh, that's funny. Their API is down.
I've seen that with Gatsby projects where it just has the URL to images, so it's still making requests to the Drupal stack.
Yeah, they don't even give me the full URL to the image. They give me a relative path to the image.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So I have to do a little bit of glue code to like put the full path on here.
Yeah.
So that's why I need that module that's got no lines of code in it right now, just because I need to construct a path for feeds. So I'll end up with basically a boilerplate module with maybe 4 or 5 lines of code in it, and that'll be the whole API. Super exciting. It's what I wished Drupal 7 was letting us do, and now it works great in Drupal 9.
Nice.
Yeah, I was trying to use feeds in Drupal 7. It was a while ago, and I was hoping it would work like this, and I was so crushed. It just did not do the thing. It's nice to see it working.
Mm.
Yeah, they completely rewrote the feeds module for Drupal 9, and it's much better.
Does it handle SOAP at all yet, or is it still just for all the other feeds like JSON and?
So there's an extra module for feeds called Feeds EX, I think, or something like that. Feeds Extras that adds additional source types. Out of the box with just the core module, it does CSV, RSS, and one other unused language.
I was deeply jealous of feeds. So on my last project, it was all in SOAP, and I kept longing for the feeds module. So yes, that is so good to see, though.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure like if a SOAP API does produce JSON, that it would work great. To get this to talk to Communico, they use OAuth. So I had to edit a patch for feeds to make that work so that I could do the whole OAuth stuff. But that patch is up there as a pull request against feeds. Hopefully it'll get accepted soon, but if not, I'll make sure to include it in the description of the API when I get the repo posted. But yeah, I had to get that part working. I don't think OAuth JSON feeds is a big use case for the feeds module. I think I'm kind of in an outlier by using feeds to reproduce a modern API. But it works great. Super good.
Cool.
I think the other route would be to use the migrate module. That certainly would have done it as well, but that would have required me to write code. And I'm kind of allergic to code if I can avoid it. So
I'm getting there myself.
Thanks, Greg.
yeah, super fun.
Thanks.
Hopefully y'all will register some events at the library come early next year. We'll probably be launching the new events page in January.
Can you link the page in the chat?
Which page?
The one I'm sorry, you were showing a Communico page.
For
saying, can you share again real quick?
Yeah,
I missed something.
That's okay.
Since we have some more time, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were showing a page before on the Communico, the actual version.
Like where you can actually see the content?
No, it was on Communico's website. It showed the actual, okay, maybe you're going there.
Oh, I know how I got to that. I got to that from the front end. So I'm still using this,
okay.
right?
This hold on. You're on your local. You're really fast. Go back. Okay, so this is the new site right here, right?
Yeah.
And if you click onto the event, now it goes to Communico. Will that be the new site later on, or is it going to stay like that? Is it going to stay in Communico, like events.mul? Is what you're working on going to be events.multcolib.org?
Yes and no. I'm keeping the Communico for the registration form. The form on this one is closed right now. But if registration is open, you'd see a pop-up form to register for an event.
Okay.
So I'm actually keeping that piece of the Communico events just because I don't want to manage event registration anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm keeping this form that allows patrons to give us their library card number and register for an event. And I'm going to display everything behind this pop-up. So nobody will be able to see that there's Communico behind there.
Oh. So events.multicolib is what I was wondering. So okay, events. That's where the new site will live, except in the registration part will be Communico. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, right now the events.multicolib is all Communico. And so once my coworker and I finish the project, we'll probably launch it at events.multicolib and move the Communico stuff to a different URL. But I haven't figured that stuff out yet.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, so there's still some open questions. We're definitely mid-project. I've got to figure out how to host Gatsby stuff on platform.sh. Right now, it's all just working locally. Works great for us locally, but I got to get it up on platform and then get a domain pointed at it and figure all that stuff out. Lots of fun in January.
Yeah. Are they averse to choosing? Like, I know. Well, I use Gatsby for my blog, and it's on Netlify, and that developer experience for Static is amazing. Netlify is like the Gatsby host of choice. Anyways, not saying you can do that, but the whole workflow and everything is really nice for Gatsby specifically.
Hosting for library stuff all goes through Multnomah County, and they actually have a team of folks.
Yeah.
And currently we're using Platform for the Drupal stuff, and it's pretty great. And they do allow us to build commands in their system, but I think I'll probably end up using GitHub Actions to do the build. I haven't really decided yet.
Makes a lot of sense.
But Netlify would definitely make that part easier.
Yeah.
I might propose that to my boss and see if we can use it. But you know, the whole contracting process and signing up a whole new hosting company, et cetera, et cetera. So I might just put it all on Platform and not worry about it.
Yeah, that's a whole like, yeah.
It'll send like it'll send like a brick of requests back to your Drupal host too when it's building from Gatsby, even with an incremental build. But with using incremental builds will make it better.
Yeah, in the case of the library's website, I'm not actually sure how often we're going to be doing builds. We might do them every 15 minutes, but only if I can keep them short like they are now. And Gatsby is not fast. It's pretty slow. And to do the translation, we'll probably increase the build time by 7 times, once for each language. So I'm not expecting a fast build. And we're only using this for the event pages at the library. I'm not trying to build the whole library website. We're just doing it for these event pages that come out of that Communico API. So hopefully it's not too slow, but I can already envision the requests for the builds to happen faster and more often. Especially if they want to do things like close an event and then actually have it show it's closed on the library's website. They're not going to want to wait 20 minutes for it to update. But yeah, that's a set of challenges that I hope will be pretty smooth. But you know, they have instant publish preview right now in Drupal 7, so we'll see. I think it'll work out.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Cool.
Well, thanks for looking at my work stuff with me, guys. It was fun.
Right on. Is my mic working?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Greg. All right. Well, any other questions or announcements or anything that we need to listen to? Cool. Thank you all for being here. And I guess we'll see you all in the new year. I'm not sure. Let's see. When is the lunch meetup? 4th Tuesday would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be the 22nd. So there probably will be a lunch meetup on the 22nd.
Bring your eggnog.
And,
Bring your eggnog or your spice.
Bring whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. It's your house. So yeah. And yeah, so that will probably be happening on the 22nd. So stay tuned for that. Join us in the Drupal Slack, the Drupal-PDX channel. And yeah, I think you all know how to find us because you're here, you found us. So I won't go through all of that, but it's groups.drupal.org/Portland if you're listening on the stream or watching the recording. So that's where you can find announcements. We're also on Meetup and yeah, meetup.com. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your participation and presentations and questions and all that good stuff. So thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks for hosting, Amber. I appreciate it. And
Thank
don't forget to subscribe to Amber's YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Start streaming, it'll send you the reminder, and you'll know what it's about.
Oh, is it? Yeah, where is it actually? Do you stream on
I'll
YouTube?
link it up
I'll put a link in the comment for this this event on GDO. So I'll add a comment with the link to it. So
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
yeah. So hopefully it worked. You
Subscribe
might end up with
now.
other things too. Like I don't know what other videos I might end up making, but might end up with some electronics projects or I don't know what. So who knows?
It's like a Twitter feed. I totally understand.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Amber.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks.